I like that walk up. So thanks for everyone to be here. I'm really excited about the conversation, the discussion that we're having. More importantly, the motive behind what we're trying to do, NextGen Rising. And we want to thank the sponsors of this session, Arcadia and Infocom and Verizon. Sean Sullivan is going to be the moderator. He is a giant among us, both in height and in spirit and in industry. If you talk about resilience, he embodies it. And if you talk about courage and generosity, he provides it. And so you need that type of man to lead this panel and this discussion. And so thank you all for being here. I'm really looking forward to the discussion and the means and the motive of why we're doing this. So thank you all.
Hello, good morning everyone. I hope everyone had an opportunity to grab some Bloody Marys and some champagne and a little bit of lunch. My name is Taylor Apsher. I'm an attorney and policy advisor at Encompass, and I'm going to give a little bit of background about the NextGen Rising program. So my job at Encompass, I'm a part of the policy team who's always working hard, advocating for members' interests in DC to hopefully make your jobs a little easier. And if it's not obvious by looking at me, I am a young professional at the beginning of my career. As you're all aware, our industries are evolving and we can't leave our workforce behind. And speaking on behalf of the young workforce, we don't want to be left behind. We need jobs. And telecom is a cool industry. And as technology accelerates and the pace of change quickens, the need to cultivate fresh talent has never been more urgent. That's why Encompass is proud to introduce NextGen Rising, our new initiative designed to spotlight and support early career professionals. I would not be here today had it not been for my mentors and those already established in the industry, teaching me and also advocating to have opportunities to advance my career. Whether that be as big as advocating for me to get this job at Encompass, or something small like seeing me at a happy hour and introducing me to another person within the industry. I'm really proud to be a part of the group that has helped create NextGen Rising, and I'm sure they have similar experiences to mine. So it's been great working with Jane Hobson, my fellow colleague at Encompass, and Jack Yates, who is on the panel, so you get to hear more about his story straight from him. It's been great working with them and my other colleagues at Encompass to make this program happen. Encompass is making a commitment to empower the next generation of leaders with the tools, connections, and opportunities they need to thrive in a dynamic, ever-changing industry. So NextGen Rising is more than just a panel here at the show. But for everyone here, and especially those young people in the room, I hope you take advantage of this time at the show and build meaningful connections and share experiences that you can take back to your office and use in your daily lives. We'll have more information on the future of NextGen on the Encompass website, so I encourage you all to visit the website and sign up for updates to stay up to date on what we're planning and how you can get involved. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Sean for a really great discussion among industry professionals at all levels. So from CEOs and senior leaders to those just starting out in their career like me. Thank you.
Good morning. God, that was lame. My God. This is telecom. We communicate. Come on, let's try that again. Good morning. Good morning. Outstanding. Thank you very much. Taylor, thank you for that nice introduction. All right, we're going to start off with a quick trivia question. I like history. I've always liked history. I'm going to list a bunch of names. You need to tell me what is common about all these people. John Adams, Ulysses S. Grant, William McKinley, William Taft, FDR, Lyndon Johnson, and Bill Clinton. Okay, they're all presidents. We get that. They share one other common thing. Any idea what that one thing is? Anybody? They were all elected president on this same day, the 4th of November. Different years, of course, but that's today's trivia question. So happy election day, everybody. Okay, so thank you all for coming today to this program. We want this to be an interactive session, and we invite audience participation to make it worthwhile. So we're going to start using some Slido slides. Not right now. I'll give you the cue, but there are some QR codes on your tables. You might want to get that ready. It's also going to be up on the screen later, just so you can start answering some questions so we get a better feel for who's in the audience. I'm now going to ask our 6 distinguished panelists to introduce themselves. So, Jack, I'll start with you.
Jack Yates with Gigabit Fiber.
Karina Borquez, Regulatory Policy Counsel at Bandwidth.
Casey Robinson, VP of Sales at Intel Services.
Garner Duncan, SVP of Government Affairs at Easy Fiber.
Jen Parkhill, Senior Director of Sales Enablement, Verizon Partner Solutions.
Dan Davis, CEO, Arcadian Infocom.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Okay. You can clap. It's fine.
Go, Josie.
So our panelists are going to be sharing a lot about themselves today, but we also want to hear from you. Please feel free to engage the panelists. If they say something and you have a question about it, please do so. To help facilitate that, we have 2 people from INCOMPAS with microphones. So where are our 2 microphones? There's one right over here. And where's the second one? Right back there. Perfect. So all you got to do is raise your hand, and we'll get off and running. Okay. Remember that prompt I talked about, the Slido deck? This is your prompt for the Slido questions. All right. So here we go. First question. How long have you been working in the telecom industry?
It's kind of fun. It is.
All right. As those are coming in, I'm going to ask our panelists the same question. Jack, how many years?
3.5.
3.5?
Yep.
6.
6?
14.
14?
22.
22?
20.
20?
30.
Outstanding. Okay. Fabulous. Thank you very much. All right. A lot of experience in the room. All right. Second question. How many companies have you worked for during your career? How many companies have you worked on or worked in? Now, I worked for a company called Verizon, but before that it was Bell Atlantic, but before that it was NYNEX, but before that it was New England Telephone. Does that count as 1 or 4? I don't know. So I'll go with 4. Okay. Jack, same question to you.
I've only worked for 1 company.
Okay.
5 companies.
3.
4.
5.
3.
Perfect. Okay. Outstanding. All right. Good balance. Third question. What department is your current position? In which department, what functional area, Jack? And all the panelists, is your current position?
Currently work in sales.
Sales?
Mine is, oh, there it is, legal.
Legal.
Sales.
Government Affairs.
Oh, all of the above?
All the above. Outstanding.
I would say all of the above as well.
Fantastic. All right. That's awesome. That's a great point that we're going to cover later, having those different areas of expertise. Terrific. Okay. Fourth and final question. What's your current level? Entry level, manager, senior director, director, VP, SVP, GM, or C-suite?
I would say a little past entry level, mid-level. It's not an option up there, but yeah.
I was asked to explain it a little bit. I'm not entry level and I'm not a manager, so I have no one below me, but I'm kind of like a mid-level contributor. That's how it works in law in-house roles.
Okay.
I'm a VP.
Senior VP.
Senior Director.
C-suite.
Terrific. Great. Thank you very much. All right, let's learn a little bit more about our panelists. For Jen and Dan, and Jen, I'll start with you.
Great.
Both of you have had long, successful careers in telecom. Can you share a little bit more about your career journey as we start today?
I would love to. So I actually started at an advertising agency in Toronto many moons ago. And then I kind of fell into telecom. I had moved to Denver, got married, and I ended up at TCI, which to your point, Sean, TCI probably became 3 companies because it ended up as Comcast when I first left. And one thing I always call out is I have 3 lovely children, and I actually took a 10-year pause in there while raising children in my professional career, which worked out great because then I came back to Verizon, which has been a great opportunity to continue to contribute to the workforce. So I think anything's possible, and I think you have to remain committed. And I think for us here having this sort of panel, which I applaud the initiative that INCOMPAS is doing here across the industry, we obviously need to make sure our existing talent is ready to for the future and learning new skills and also bringing in the pipeline. So I think it's great that we have that. And I think as part of this, you're going to hear all of our different stories that have all done different paths, which is really important to think that we all bring different skills and experience to the table and make the industry a better place. So that will be my synopsis on this one, because I know there's 10 more questions where we'll answer other things.
Perfect. Dan?
I've done a lot of different things. So recovering engineer, recovering lawyer, recovering corporate finance MBA. I've done lobbying. I've done a lot of different things. So undergrad was mechanical engineering and political science. Normally don't see these things together. There's a theme in my career, as you'll pick up. Took a couple of years off. We're calling them gap years now. My father called him irresponsible at the time. He's gotten over that. Came out it took a couple of years off, went to law school, because that seemed the right thing to do. Spent 5 years in big law in a global law firm in the early 90s into the late 90s. That's when the internet was just being built. I got bit by the fiber telecom bug and have never recovered. And so raised $500 million for a company building out what is now the global backbone across the United States. We built 17,000 fiber miles of long haul stuff. And then eventually sold that to a company called CenturyTel out of Monroe, Louisiana. Now they're called Lumen. So we were 120, so grew that. I was employee number 10 at my first fiber company. Grew it to about 125 people, 25 million in revenue, took it through a bankruptcy restructuring. That was kind of my first CEO gig because I was the young guy, wasn't married, didn't have kids. All the other senior executives said, oh, we're going in bankruptcy, we're out of here. So I was just the last guy standing. So I ended up kind of being the turnaround, kind of CEO turnaround guy. It was very successful. The bankruptcy, believe it or not, was really just a balance sheet transaction. 93 cents on the dollar for our unsecured creditors. Sold it to a company in Monroe, Louisiana, CenturyTel. I thought I was going to stay 12 or 18 months. This is 2003. I woke up later. I was there 15 years. And in that time, I ran. Of course, ran the law department, grew it from 7 lawyers to 230 legal professionals, I think. So we were about $2.5 billion when I walked in 2003, 24 billion in revenue when I walked out, 6,000 people when I walked in, 55,000 when I walked out. So I've done kind of the startup to scale up to global until about 2017, in which case 24 M&A transactions was enough for me. And I thought I was going to retire. That was really kind of my intent. It ended up being more a sabbatical in 2017 to 2018. At that point, so we'll talk a lot about kind of personal stories. I'm a later in life dad. So, I mean, it's 2017. At that point, I'm the global VP of corporate strategy for a global company. I'm bouncing around the globe 60, 70% of my time with kids 1 and 3 years old. That math does not work very long for those of you who are parents, and if you haven't experienced that long, learn from this. And so I left corporate America to retire or take some time off. So I took about a year off at home. It was noted, gosh, you're home a lot now, trying to co-parent here, this is different. And I also just had a lot of energy. So started Arcadian, a second fiber company. Again, building long haul routes 25 years later because we've kind of chewed through the capacity that people like me built. And so that was about 7 years later. So now we're to the point where 7 years later, it's like overnight success for 7 years in a row. So we've got $750 million in fiber infrastructure going in the Western United States. We've done partnerships with the Navajo Nation, state of California, both of which really interesting entities to try to work with. And have built a world-class team, some of whom are here with me today, just the best on the planet. People from telecom, I've got people from energy. It's really about, we've been building a team. It's not building people that are like you, it's building a team of people that are not like you and know things more than you. But anyway, so that's a lot of background, but kind of setting some of the themes for what made me successful, which is doing a lot of different things.
Terrific. Thank you. All right. Where do you two see the biggest opportunities in the industry today? Dan, I'll start with you.
So I have a 13-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. I used to tell him I do digital infrastructure, right? And then he goes back to his screen and does whatever he was doing. Once I started explaining, I'm building the internet. I'm not Al Gore, I actually do build the internet. Some of you get that joke, some don't. But I dig ditches and we put plastic and glass in the ground, and it literally is the global backbone. Like, no kidding, this is what we do. So it became interesting to him. I tell you that story because what we're doing out there in building AI infrastructure, whether it's data centers, power infrastructure, fiber infrastructure, it's a very, very physical thing. We, use diamond bit rock saws to go 48 inches down and drop this stuff in the ground. But I will tell you, having, $750 million of projects underway, out in the field, they're still doing it with clipboards and pencils. I am not making this up. In this digital world where they're building the digital backbone, it's an incredibly analog, antiquated process. I tell you that because I think there's a lot of opportunity here in making these physical construction projects, whether it's fiber, power, data centers, digitizing those processes so that, rather than writing it down on a clipboard, they have an app on their phone. We built this much, this price, from here to here with, 2-centimeter GPS accuracy. That's where we are trying to drive the industry as Arcadian with the business we're doing. So I think there's a lot of money in digitizing this physical process of construction.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to ask the rest of the panelists the same question. Jen, we'll start with you.
Perfect.
Work to the left.
Yeah, I would agree with what Dan's articulating. I think it's super important to make sure the whole process is. And I think there's a way to look at AI as that tool. I know I saw a McKinsey report last week that 75% of all of our roles are going to be reshaped by AI. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure we understand where that intersection is. And I know there was one panel this morning where they were talking about we're still in the driver's seat as humans, AI is in the passenger seat, and really how do we navigate that dynamic to make sure that there's still critical thinking. So I think, one of my plugs today is that we keep the critical thinking skill set across all of us and our teammates so that we just don't take what comes from AI and assume it's all correct and make sure we're vetting it, putting it into the problem-solving mode that we need it to be in, but really have that opportunity to make sure within each role we're making sure what we each can do with AI, because it's going to speed up our ability to communicate, to get the stats, as Dan was talking about, and make real-time decisions that actually will benefit the business, whether it's faster time to build, faster time to serve the customers, and obviously generate revenue for those of us in the for-profit world.
I think the greatest opportunities is actually just continuing to invest in putting infrastructure in the ground or above ground. I tell this to cities and counties all over the place that our generation's utility is actually the fiber industry right now. So as long as we keep investing, I think that's our greatest opportunity. And not only for us now, but also our kids down the road, because this will be used for 30, 40, 50, 100 years down the road.
I agree with all of those things, obviously, but I also think with that comes the other side, and cybersecurity is going to continue to be an ever-evolving thing and incredibly important in every aspect of all of our lives that we probably can't even fully comprehend right now. So I think there will be a lot of growth in that area.
Yeah, so from where I sit, it's not a secret that the FCC has been quite active this year. So not only deleting, old rules, but also opening new rulemakings that, will shape the next couple decades of, the ecosystems and the regulatory environment in which we all operate. And the biggest opportunity really right now is going in and telling your stories, and really making sure that you guys on the ground that are seeing whether it's cost increases or, other pain points, that you are telling the people who are writing those rules, your thoughts on those matters. And that's a big opportunity. We're in the middle of a big shift.
I agree with everybody. I'd personally think just continuously to support these hyperscale facilities. We are mainly in Dallas and Texas, and we've seen tremendous growth over the last 3 to 4 years, and the opportunities that we've had just to continuously support them, overbuild older legacy infrastructure, and essentially build Tom had his conduit package up here this morning, just future-proofing these networks to where we don't have to go back and rebuild these systems that are going to support us for the next 30 to 40 years.
Terrific. All right. Everybody in this room is in telecom. We're all in telecom. We're all in technology. I'm sure they'd love to find out what you guys did. How did you arrive at the decision to join this industry? In 20 words or less, Jack, and we'll move all the way across. How did you end up here?
Yeah, fascinated by, like I was just saying, the growth and the AI boom, and I feel like I chose correctly.
Perfect.
So.
All right.
So for me, it was impact on a broad scale, right? Telecom touches absolutely everything, and future-proofing my career. I'm looking at 30 years at least.
Good job.
This is the future.
Awesome.
Mine's a little different, a little less intentional. I went back to college as an adult, and this was supposed to be my college job, and I never left. A friend told me it was a great thing to get into, and she was right, and here I am.
Mine was kind of similar. Graduated college in 2003. The economy wasn't great. Mom and Dad said, you need to go find a job. So I took the first job I was offered.
Perfect.
I think every day is different, and that's why it's been exciting to stay in it. And you are making a difference to the global economy and the connectivity that we bring to everybody. So connecting people, places, and things is important.
For me, it was touched on kind of how to tell a story. So remember, I was an engineer as a geek. My husband would buy me shirts with pockets. I'd have a pocket protector, but we can't have pockets on our shirts anymore. But so I came at this as a technologist, dumped into a law firm doing $100 million, billion deals, and then the internet happened. And I knew how to take complex technical stories and layer on the finance piece and then really tell a story around it. Like, here's how this technology with money turns into value. That's kind of how I fell into this, and because there weren't many technologically minded lawyers back then. That's kind of how I got pulled into telecom.
Terrific. Awesome. All right.
All right, so we're going to do a little handoff. So to Gardner and Casey, so what did you do early on in your career that really led to moving ahead in that career? Whoever wants to start.
So I was really lucky. When I started out, I worked for a pretty small company, and everybody, what I found about this industry, unlike any other that I've been part of, is people want to share information. And I took that opportunity to heart. After lunch, we would drive by where we were building fiber. We'd pop a vault and look in it. At lunch breaks, we would go to data centers, and I'd get little tours. So I was a pricing person, you know? So I got to see all sorts of stuff and work with people that had been in the industry for 20, 30 years, and they were so eager to share that information. And I really believe that helped me grow much faster. I didn't have to learn it on my own. I got to learn through the experiences of those around me.
Definitely.
I too did the same thing. Thirst for knowledge is something that you should have inherently in your trajectory, in your career path trajectory. But one thing I also did was just the little things. When I first started off, I worked for a small company called CBeyond. Many people know that company from many years ago, but I was in sales, just a normal outside sales guy, and I would do some work before 8 o'clock. I would do some work after 5. I would just do the little things. I would take notes, build a little extra rapport whenever I was meeting with customers, write down kids' names or birthdays or something like that. And I'd send them an email mentioning their kids or mentioning a birthday or whatever it was that I found unique about that. And I think just that separation from everyone else, because business owners got calls from 1,000 different solicitors on a day-to-day basis. Something different to set yourself apart is what really propelled me.
Perfect. I'm going to stick with you for a minute, Gardner,
Okay.
and over to Casey. So what skills have been most important to you as you progress through your career?
I think I just mentioned it. Doing something that
You bring it, you personalize it, right?
Yeah. I mean, people buy from people at the end of the day. And no matter what, if you're an attorney, if you're in sales, if my space now is government affairs, you're selling your company one way or the other. And so making sure that you sell yourself first, everything else will follow. So I think it's just the communication, doing something different, and making it personal.
Perfect. Casey?
Very similar. I think that the more I understand myself and the more I understand people around me, the better I do at my job. And I think as we started out talking about technology and how things are growing and changing and AI, but I think it really does still boil down to people and those communication skills. And I really think if you focus in on those things and how you make other people feel, that goes really, really far in building those relationships.
Terrific. All right. So those are the skills that got you here. I'm going to ask all the panelists now, what skills you need going forward? Going forward, what are the one or two big things you think from a skill perspective are important? Jack, I'll start with you.
I mean, obviously networking, selling yourself, getting to know as many people as you possibly can, selling yourself, selling your company, and on top of that, I mean, we see, no offense to the older people in this room, but there's not many of my age that come to these shows or more or less work in this industry, so I plan on just continuously driving and carrying the legacy that you have all started. So.
Terrific.
Yeah, so I think similar to what you guys were getting at, it's ultimately a human business, right? So you can integrate AI all you want, or, you can say this meeting should have been an email, but truly when I have made the most progress at reaching a resolution or anything like that, it really is, doing that meeting, taking that call, or scheduling that one-on-one that cannot be easily replaced. And so those human skills, the judgment, the personal, effect, that is where it's at, yeah.
Sorry. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, that's why we're all here. Mm-hmm. We could have all sent each other emails, but instead we showed up to this conference, and it makes a huge difference, and you cannot replace that. I think we all experienced that during the pandemic, and it's been amazing to get back in front of people and build those relationships, and I think people have tried to replace that with technology, and it just doesn't work.
No.
Okay.
Jokingly, I think learning how to use each version of Outlook is going to prove the most difficult for everyone. It's one of the life skills.
Good.
I just switched over to the new Outlook, and that's cumbersome. But in all reality, I think it's just maintaining what Casey said. It's maintaining the personal skills, maintaining the relationships, because we're putting the communications in the ground. We're putting it in data centers. But at the end of the day, we're still communicating with each other.
Yeah.
Right, and I would add to that all of the above, plus I think empathy, I think understanding the human condition in different parts of the world and what we all need to bring to the table for a successful future for our children, super important. And back to something I said earlier, I think critical thinking, continuing to have decision-making skills and people understanding why they're making the decisions they're making will be critical for the future.
Yeah, I mean, when you see people that are kind of reached the pinnacle of their career, very successful, it usually means they found that thing that ignites an internal passion. Mm-hmm. And that's, as I do some executive coaching, and I've had a number of executive coaches. Like in your career, the ultimate goal is to find that thing that you're passionate about. And if you have that passion, that drive, that, if you're reasonably smart, which everybody in this room is, then you will be successful. The hardest part is finding that passion. And if you look at my career, that's what kind of bounced around. We've seen so many different things until I finally found this fiber thing, that kind of this virus I can't get rid of, that is my passion through 3 different downturns and so many different administrations and ups and downs. So to find your passion, it's not about sitting around thinking, going, okay, go through a list and check it off. You've got to do it experientially. Get out there, be curious, go expose yourself to different things. You might be surprised if you go to your boss and go, look, I'm interested in this thing. How can I go get some exposure? I don't want to change a job, but how can you work with your peers, boss, to get me exposed to this thing, and see if that thing ignites that passion. So it's be curious. And in doing that, exposing yourself to different things that you don't know, you'll have failures. Take risks. You can't explore these other things without taking a risk. By definition, you're going to stop when you find the passion. Everything you've done before isn't your passion. Don't look at those as failures. Look at those as just problem solving. So be curious, take risks, and the other thing that we really all need to focus on is be tenacious. Stick with something long enough to really decide, is it not successful for you because you haven't been in it long enough, haven't put more hours than everybody else? Is that it, or is it just not the right thing? So early in your career, I'd say work a lot. Late in your career, relate to other people a lot. And that's kind of what's worked for me. There's no substitute for just working harder, because you get to a point in your career, everybody's smart, everybody's well educated. At some point, it's if you work harder, you're going to move faster than others, and that's not that's kind of controversial to say these days. But I'm old school and I'm OG. I own it. but that's what's worked for me.
Well said. Persistence is the fuel of winners, Jack. Right? Back to you.
I've got a question for the rest of the panelists. Just more or less, what has helped you the most reach your current position and just throughout your entire career? What would you give advice? What advice would you give us?
Sure, I can start. So I think probably tagging on to what Dan was saying, I think every experience adds on each other, and none of us would be here today without the prior experiences, whether we considered them successful or not. They were part of the journey, and I think that's super important. I totally agree with the working hard, and I tell my kids this all the time. Be proactive, think about what else could be done to help the current situation, whatever that is. It could be another spreadsheet, it could be another conversation, picking up the phone call, making sure you're that person that's anticipating what a future need could be within your organization or your team is going to go a long, long way. And I think that proactive assessment, and it's something I always did early on too. I always worked hard, long hours, and was willing to do whatever it was. And I think being an asset to your team is going to take you a long way. And thinking outside what maybe your defined scope of role is and understanding the larger picture will actually take you a lot further than, saying no when somebody asks you a question and, presenting opportunities for growth. So that's how I would answer, Jack.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. So Jack and Karina, you've heard about skills. What skills are you finding helping you today in your current roles?
I would take it almost a step further. I mean, as a salesperson within this industry, starting off, been working for about 3 years. I mean, it's an incredible learning curve to understand all the different product offerings that you have. So, I mean, my advice and what's helped me is go out and spend a week with your operations team. Go out and spend a week with your engineers to know exactly what you're selling, what you're putting in the ground, and the mission that you're, as a company, trying to accomplish. That would be what has helped me the most in my current role.
Yeah, so my role is a little bit different. I'm obviously an attorney, and I think the communication skills coupled with being really thorough, being detail-oriented, project management, particularly right now this year with the NG 911 transition, it's been a new thing for everybody in the industry, and it's quite messy. We've filed comments on how messy it is, and it's just really helped throughout that process as, we're getting filings and then retraction of filings and readiness declarations, and what does that really mean? So it's been great.
Terrific. Okay. So I have a question for the mid-stage and late-stage people. I took the liberty of pulling each of your FBI files. Actually not, LinkedIn, same thing. And I noticed that each of you didn't really stay siloed for your careers. You guys kind of did other things. How important is having that different background in different departments or different functions helped you in your career?
Dan, start. You already alluded to it, but.
If ultimately you want to move into the C-suite, right? For a lot of people, that's the pinnacle of their career. It was you gave me a great intro to this. Like, what are these areas do you focus on at this point as CEO? All of them, right? Because ultimately, I'm responsible for every piece working well together. It wasn't really the end in mind was not to be a CEO. That it was not. I wasn't 4 years old and realized I wanted to be a CEO. That's not how this happened. It's just as I built all these different siloed skill sets, and you just kind of knew more across the everything than anybody else did, sometimes even more than maybe the leaders in the areas. You just kind of naturally float up to the top. For me, ultimately I started a new company from literally the back of a napkin at a PTC about 8 years ago, and I created a company that really fit what I wanted to do and the skill sets that I had. So it's a little unfair question for me, because the current company I'm in was designed around the skill sets I thought I had for success, and then what I don't have, I have sitting here at this table right here, and then elsewhere throughout the country to fill in those holes. So it's important, but it's not necessary. If ultimately you don't want to be in the C-suite and you want to be kind of a senior director, VP, that's fine, right? There's only so many CEO and C-suite slots, but I'd say even if you're a senior VP in construction, in our company, there's $750 million going out the door. It's not just my CFO's job to watch that. It's the person deploying the $750 million, the head of construction, to understand enough about the finance to ask the questions of the CFO and ask the questions of me. So on the one hand, don't worry about it too much. On the other hand, once you get to that kind of tier 1 level, but behind the CEO, below the CEO, you really do need to know what all your peers are doing enough to go, hey, I'm out of my depth. I need to ask up here another C-suite person what I need to know or what I should be afraid of.
Okay.
Right.
Jen?
I was going to say, well, first, Dan, it was the idea on the beach. That's what your gem is there.
Yeah.
But I would agree. And I think, obviously I have my peers here too who are experts. And back to even what Jack said, going on the ride-alongs early in my career with technicians was such a foundational thing that I'm like, oh, this is what they have to deal with every day. And I started at TCI, we were housed in a call center operation. So I learned what it was like to be on the floor of a call center, which none of our businesses survive without understanding that experience that they go through day in, day out, and trying to solve customers' problems. That I think being as close to the customer as you can be, understanding what the requirements are and what you need to then do internally, and then knowing enough to be dangerous is how I always describe myself, technology-wise, and then I phone a friend if I don't. But understanding what my peers' roles are, how are they being measured, how's my network team being measured, that really helps me be successful so I can come to every conversation trying to bridge what is it that we're trying to do, what is it that I know they need to do, and where's the ultimate solution. And I think, honestly, in large corporations like Verizon, you're not going to rise to any level if you don't have that ability to communicate and understand what's the ultimate goal you're trying to achieve. And of course, in our case, meeting customers' requirements.
So I think I'll go back to the personal thing. I started off in sales and transitioning from sales into sales leadership and then moving from sales leadership into my government affairs. It goes back to the experience, having a thirst for knowledge on, I think Dan and Jen mentioned it, Casey mentioned it, I think we've all mentioned it, frankly. It's knowing what you don't know and knowing more about it so you can speak intelligently on that, even if you're not the subject matter expert. So making sure that you know enough to be dangerous, but then you phone a friend, you call the real engineer, you call your CFO, whoever it may be, to answer the question. But being able to speak intelligently on all aspects of the business is what's going to take you further in your career.
I completely agree. And what I have found, and we talk about it in my team all the time, that you don't have to have all the answers, but if you're actually willing to go get it and then close the loop and go back and deliver that information, that is a little thing that so many people don't do. So I think having had the opportunity to do ride-alongs and work in different departments has helped me build those relationships across different departments. You mentioned empathy earlier, Jen, and I think that's so true. When we understand what our other departments are up against, that helps us. We're all delivering products to different people within our organization and our customers, and we can make sure that we are setting them up for success as well. So I think the last thing that was really big for me with empathy is also integrity. I think having some insight about different areas of the organization has enabled me to build a reputation for my customers in wholesale that transcends the company that you work for. I have the same relationships now that I had at other companies too, and they know that I have integrity. And I think having the understanding of what you're talking about and being able to sniff stuff out and help them and provide valuable feedback has been really pivotal for me.
Yeah.
Terrific.
So another question just for all the panelists. How have soft skills such as negotiating and adaptability help you more or less progress throughout your career? How important would you say those are?
I'd say extremely important. You're obviously in sales, so I would say that the personal people skills are not innate. It's a learned behavior, and so I challenged myself whenever I graduated college and stepped into a sales role is to take a step, believe in yourself, and make sure that you have the knowledge to do something, but also it's getting outside your comfort zone. So that's how you grow, is getting outside your comfort zone. So learning those skills early will progress your career later in life.
Yep, you bring up, being in sales. I think that so many people think that if you like to talk to people, that you're automatically good at sales. We do like to talk often, but I think having those soft skills is really what sets you apart. You have to be able to understand what people are saying behind their questions, and having those soft skills is really big with negotiations too. You have to be able to read the subtext and things like that. So I think that's incredibly important in sales.
Right, and I would just add to that, the concept of negotiation, it's not always, I always win, you always lose. I think it's negotiation for a win-win as much as you can, and I think that's, for me, a learned skill over the years also, that there doesn't have to be a loser for you to be a winner, and I think that's something still probably, honestly, across the industry and society, there's still opportunity for us to get better at, so that collectively we find the right path to get everybody where we ultimately can be. And I think that's something I would add to, just how important it is understanding that concept, and then building and stakeholdering with your peers and cross-functional partners you need to be successful to get there. And that takes time, and it's establishing the relationships, as you mentioned earlier, making sure people trust you and you have the integrity and the accountability to do the right thing.
Yeah, when you get, and most of us are technologists or have a passion for technology, and I'm going to throw rocks at my own house. Like, a lot of us are engineers, and I'll just go out there for myself. Engineers, there's EI, and there's intelligence and emotional intelligence, and often as engineers we start strong on one and weak on another. Take your own guess which one I'm talking about. But building that, assessing your own emotional intelligence, and then going and building on the strengths you have, working on the weaknesses. One of the best things I did when I did my executive MBA years ago is they did like a battery of 6 tests of your personality type. And some of them were, of course, I thought that, oh my gosh, I'm so much different than other people. Just knowing actually objectively where you are relative to the population of people gives you a sense for how you're perceived. And there were a lot of insights like, oh, I always struggle with this. And you're working with the folks in the program, you're like, well, that's because you've got this aspect to your personality, and here's what we can do to work on that. So I wouldn't say everybody go get your MBA. Don't do that. Do if you have free time and money. But I'd say I don't think it's ever too early in your career to have an executive coach, a really good executive coach who can help you grow these soft skills. That's what an executive coach is. They're as much psychologist as corporate strategist in an organization, but they're really growing you as a person, those soft skills. So I'd say yes, it's very important. I would say find somebody who can objectively assess where you are personality-wise, and then somebody to work with you and enhance those soft skills. Really, really important for moving up kind of past middle management.
All right, great. So we've heard about skills, right, from our mid-stage and later stage folks. Jack and Karina, do you think you have these skills?
Absolutely.
Good answer.
I would say what's helped me kind of adapt and just strengthen these skills that I definitely think I have is, just repetition. Talking to people, losing enough times, getting burned enough times to realize I'm not going to do that again, or this is how I treat that situation. And also just, sales is a people game. You have to, like they've been all saying, you have to understand how to read people, not in a weird way, but more or less just understanding what the customer wants and giving them the best solution for that. And that brings me back to what I said a few minutes ago, is just understanding your network or what your product offering is to such an extent to where the customer's not always going to know what they need, but you, just by hearing them out, can tell them, here's the solution we're going to offer, and this is exactly how we're going to fix your problem. We're problem solvers at the end of the day.
Yeah, so I'll take a little bit of a more measured approach. I do think I have people skills, right? The soft skills and all of that. I think it's invaluable in how you really even get to in-house and work well with your internal clients, right? All these various teams. But I think it's honestly a journey, right? You meet new people, different people. You're put into situations where you're, working with different types of people than you're used to before. And so it's always kind of that evolving and learning process. And, good tip on executive coach, never too early. And, so I do think that it's always kind of an evolving scenario.
Terrific. All right. Any questions from the audience on soft skills, cross-functional experience? Yes, right over here.
I've got a question. Because so much of what we're talking about these days is AI related. And so much it seems like we're getting more productive because we have AI, and we have all these tools that can help us almost depersonalize what we're doing. And I think, you guys mentioned it a little bit, like, thank God we're here because we actually see people that are human and you get together, but it just feels like everything is pushing us to be less together. Whether it's more Zoom calls, whether it's more scheduled, whether it's more things that are all automated and artificial intelligence. And why ask people when I can just ask Perplexity or something like that? So I'm just wondering, how do you guys see this going forward and saying, wait a minute, we might need to kind of fight back, even though we're all building the capability to make this more go that way, when maybe the human element is kind of, we're almost building ourselves out of a humanity, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's why you hear my talk track about empathy and the human connection. I'm being purposeful using those words with everybody today because I agree, and I'm a big fan of technology, and it's a given. We have to understand it, we have to know it, we have to use it. But I think, to your point, we have to make sure we're also, all of us in this room and our peers that aren't here, being intentional about how we think about each other as people and the people we serve. Because ultimately we're still serving humans at the end of whatever device or connection it is that we have. And I think, if I could impart that thing of, ensuring that we all stop, pause, and think about whoever the person is, whether the other side of the globe, next door, in the chair beside me, I want to make sure I realize they're a person, they have a family, they have people they care about in their life, that the human intention is so important. And I think we're going to have to be the messengers of that as the advocates, to your point of building the technology to make AI go faster and our ability to absorb information go faster. We are all going to have to be the stewards of the messaging that people still need to be part of the equation.
Well, great question. Great question. All right, who else has a question? Okay, let's shift gears for a minute. So we talked about skills, we talked about other facets of what people can do to help their career. Let's talk about networking. I'm not talking about wireless networks or satellite networks or copper networks, although we should probably retire that subject. Oh, come on, guys. Really? God, I was up all night thinking about that. I want to hear from Jen again, and then Dan. How important has networking been in your career to get you to where you are today?
Super important, and I think it was alluded to earlier also. And, I think in person is always the ultimate, of course, and back to just how I answered with the human connection and empathy. I also think virtual networking is something we've all gotten pretty good at, which I don't think we can put aside because we're not always going to be physically in the same space, but I think we can still make connections with one another over a Zoom call or WebEx or whatever tool we want to use. And I think understanding how we can better do that is probably going to be important, especially for the next generations as you're coming up through. How do you continue to establish connections with people even though they may be on the other side of a screen? And I think I've always participated in events like this over the years in the industry. I've been purposeful. I usually try to work a room sometimes and have 2 or 3 questions I can ask everybody in the room just to get to know them and then follow up, like connect on LinkedIn or, if there's another platform you like to use, and then follow up with people and make connections at other events afterwards and have coffee together or meet for a drink or whatever it is that you want to do so that you establish that rapport and you keep it. Like Dan and I have been now probably, at 10 events together over the years. And it's because we have this comfort. Josie on his team is also awesome at keeping us connected. And so I appreciate that we have the opportunity to do it. But you do have to be a little purposeful, I think.
You do. It does take effort. I mean, we're in the business of networking, so there's probably some interesting jokes there. But I've been so deep in corporate finance and telecom, and you would think in corporate finance the networking is more important. I would say that's not true. I'd say the people networking in telecom, for whatever reason, there's a small number of us that don't have best sense to retire. We just keep getting recycled, and we keep reforming relationships. There's some of you in the room I've known through 2 or 3 companies, and There's not that many of us. It feels like there are when you go to these events, but you got to realize probably 60-70% of the folks that are really, kind of make the difference are at each of these events. There's a small number of us. Maybe that's why this networking is so important in telecom and in digital infrastructure. I don't know. But I'm constantly, I'll be sitting with my team and I'm like, oh, something comes up. I'm like, oh yeah, what was that gal's name 6 or 7 years ago? And it'll take me an hour. I'll come up with it. And it's just kind of filed in the back of your head. Oh yeah, she was over at that fiber company. She was the head of R&D. She was on our panel. You probably know her. Yeah.
Yep.
And so, but I'm like, oh, here's her name. Give her a call. Remind her how we know her, and go. Like, that is so really important. That networking, and it's really hard early in your career. One thing, if you see some of us are like kind of move through a room fluidly and it's easy and none of us are embarrassed, I guarantee, at least for me, I was the engineer, I was afraid to talk to anyone. I had no idea what I was doing. So the easiest way is, kind of take a wingman in, and even if you're both at the same level, that helps. But at some point, you got to get kicked out of the nest and do it on your own. Don't stay in the nest too long, and it's okay. Whoever you're talking to, who's really good at this, was who you are at that moment and wasn't good at it. And so there is a lot of empathy to help people who are just new to meeting people. And it's really probably some of the most valuable conversations are the ones that were not intentional. It was somebody mentioned something like, yeah, I don't do this, but let me introduce to Robert over here. I can't tell you how many times in a month that happens for me. And it's just because you keep up those relationships and something comes up, has nothing to do with what you intended to talk about, but it's incredibly valuable for you or your company. I know it's really hard. I know it's really awkward for some of us to do. But it's like public speaking. Very few people start out good at it, and everybody turns red and gets sweaty, and all that's just part of the gig. But you get through it, and you've just got to move through that curve of discomfort to get to the other side.
Terrific. All right, so Jack and Karina, you guys are obviously networking. I mean, you're here with 100 people, which is great. How are you specifically doing your networking plan now? What are you doing?
I can start. I think formally, right, you go to these events, for lawyers, you think telecom's small. Telecom law is very small. We all know each other. So through the Federal Communications Bar Association, more formal events like that. But I think the key thing is kind of what Jen alluded to. It's not just, meeting at the conference and connecting on LinkedIn, then it's taking that extra step and doing the one-on-one coffees or the dinners or the drinks. And I think that doing that intentionally, so like every couple of months, like who I haven't connected with in a while, that kind of thing. There's obviously kind of the key events throughout the year that everyone shows up to, so trying to make it to those at a minimum, and doing that over time.
If I didn't network, I'd probably be fired pretty quick, given that's a big part of my job as a salesman. But no, going to events such as this, and also the local events that are within your market, continuously I try, just rule of thumb, to have at least 1 or 2 meetings a day with groups that I don't know. With people that I don't know, obviously that's a goal, not a reality, but either go to lunch or coffee, continuously just following up with people outside of telecom and technology as well. Other people such as the developers or the data center guys. Just in general, trying to spread the word more and more about who you are, who your company is, and also you never know where people are going to be 10, 20 years down the road. So
I'll direct a question to Jen and Dan. So what advice would you give young professionals who want to succeed in this industry?
Sure. Well, I'm going to steal some ideas that we've already said. I think being a student of the business is so important. We always have something we can all learn. So I would say be a student. I think be a good teammate. Make sure you get along well with people. People trust you. You trust people. You deliver what you say you're going to deliver. That will go a long way. And I think be an asset to the team. So kind of where I was going before, always think about what else could you proactively be doing, even if it's beyond the scope of what your current role is. How do you add value to the organization and the team? So be a student, be a teammate, and be an asset to the organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We talked about earlier, kind of being curious and taking risks. Like, how do I know I'm doing it right? Here's a good rule of thumb. If you're not regularly uncomfortable in a situation, you're not doing it right. Learning is uncomfortable. Learning is failure. So if you don't regularly have some discomfort in the situations you're putting yourselves in professionally, personally, socially, you're probably not doing it right. So it's counterintuitive, but that's when you'll know you're kind of doing it right. You're in that room, you don't know anybody, you're like, oh God, I have nobody to talk to. I got to find somebody to talk to, make eye contact with. You're probably doing the right thing. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not learning, and so you're early in your career, probably not on the best path you could be.
Okay. Next question is for Casey and Gartner and Jen and Dan. What one or two qualities do you think differentiates people who seem to continue to accelerate their careers versus plateauing at an early level or early stage? What do you think?
I think it comes down to hunger. You just have to want it. And some people are okay with just coming in and going through the motions, and some are not. Some want more. And the other thing, my boss always talks about having a growth mindset and getting rid of limiting beliefs. And I think that you can see people that accelerate, they knock down all those barriers and do whatever, even if other people didn't think it was possible. And those that plateau tend to color within the lines a little bit, and they don't want to step out.
Terrific.
I think you're going to probably hear this from all of us. I think you've already heard it, but being uncomfortable, that's where growth happens. But having the mindset of non-failure, you will fail, knowing that you will fail, but having the mindset of no failure will get you to where you want to go and even further. And if you fail along the way, use that as a learning example. But I had a mentor once tell me that, if you make a mistake, learn from it, but if you make that same mistake twice, it's called a decision. So make sure you learn from your mistakes, but make mistakes, skin your knee, but grow, learn from it.
Yeah, I would agree with all of those, and I think being a really strong communicator, understanding what's going on, and back to your point, I think, Casey, about closing the loop.
Yep.
That's such an important thing to do, whatever task you were given, making sure everybody understands, and I think thinking about who needs to know the information. I think we still struggle that today sometimes, where I'm like, that was good information probably for the rest of the team to know, help everybody do their jobs better. And I think that often helps people go further because they have the ability to see beyond, again, the walls of their own role.
We've talked a lot in terms of kind of what you can do for yourself to move yourself forward. So I was head of partnering for that global company, and my approach was always, I'd go into meetings, and I truly would, how can I bring value to you? And I wouldn't ever really, unless they asked, talked about what value I was looking for. Because what you're looking for, you're trying to build a teaming relationship, a trusting relationship with another corporation or another entity. But even internally, you're trying to build trust internally. You're trying to build a sense of team. We haven't talked about team much here. But always think about how I can make somebody else successful. It's not just about how you want to be able to grow yourself, but if you put focus outside of yourself, how I can help others, it's going to make you more relatable. It's going to help others for what you do with them. Really walk in, it's almost like 60-40. You're like, what can I do for everybody else in the room versus myself? And what will happen, and as you're in kind of two or more people start doing that, that's when a team forms. When you're more powerful than just the single individuals in the room. Because we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, but kind of we make up that difference when we're truly operating as a team. So I'd say it's really focusing on how you can bring value to others, because there's something about the universe. When you do that, it always comes back, and usually more than you put out. I can't quite explain that, but it's absolutely true throughout my career. So it's a little counterintuitive when you talk about self-growth, that you want to grow yourself, but you also want to grow others. That'll come back and grow you too.
Terrific. All right. For the same four panelists, what can young professionals like Karina and Jack do to help stay motivated when promotions are scarce or feedback is minimal at their company? So I'll start with you, Dan, and we'll work to the left.
Hopefully you're operating in something you have some passion around, but if you don't, you've got to fake it and get through. And I'd say when you're in that situation, there's an intuition like it's a bad situation, you can be demotivated. You've got to go the opposite direction. You've got to work harder than everybody else, because when you're in a company, and I've been through companies that went through downturns, those people who step it up in that environment are the ones with a much higher likelihood of surviving. So it's counterintuitive, because you're going to have signals to you that are demotivating. You just got to turn that around and go, look, this is kind of a maybe, fight or flight kind of survivor mentality. And it's not dialing things back, it's dialing it up, because some hard choices might come, whether it's you or somebody else who survives. I know that's it's just the way things work when you're in a downturn environment.
I would agree with that, obviously taking initiative, and even the example Taylor gave by putting this initiative together that NCOMPAS is doing, like making a difference. And you've made a difference by starting this initiative for NextGen Rising, and I want to applaud you for being exactly that person. So, thank you.
This is personal, but I would always move the goalpost. So I'd set a goal, I would hit it, and I would constantly try and get better and better and better. So move the goalpost. That's how I stayed motivated. If it's money, if it's trying to get a promotion, but you have to create value for yourself in the company that you work for. But I always just move the goalpost. Striving to do better every year, every quarter, every month. Challenge yourself.
We live in a world where we have access to more information than any other time. So for me, I think I stay motivated by continuing to learn and grow. The more I learn, the more value I can bring to the people around me, to my organization, to my role. I use AI for that. I use different websites, University of YouTube, all those things. There's just always opportunities to learn, and then that better situates you when things start to change and opportunities do become available again. You've just become more valuable, more well-rounded, more experienced.
Terrific, all right. Any questions from the audience on anything they just talked about, right? Some of the skills or networking or how to stay motivated? Terrific.
After you've been toiling at the same job for 10 or 15 years, it gets repetitive, especially if you stay in sales and it's every quarter and every year and things like that. One of the things I found is go back to school, take some night classes, get with people from different industries that are in sales or in different positions, and you'll find it recharges your batteries quite a bit, and it also creates relationships and cohorts with people that are not because in work you have two people, they're either above you or below you, and as you go higher up you have fewer and fewer peers, and so creating those relationships is also a big thing as well. So anyway, I went through this recently myself, and I can tell you it's recharged the batteries for sure. So anyway, thanks.
Great comment, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Go right ahead. You have a microphone. You can ask most questions you want.
Well, mine is not a question as much as it is an opportunity for Karina and Jack to share with everyone else in the room and on the panel, something that you wish that they knew about the younger generation, or things that were really helpful, and serve as a little reminder of things that everyone else can be doing to help those in their early stages of their career. Like I know in my introduction I mentioned just talking to me at a happy hour if I look nervous. That means a lot. But also from the other attorneys on our staff, what's really helpful is whenever they send articles or news sources that they're already automatically plugged into, since they've been in the industry for a lot longer than I have, or sending events that, as Karina alluded to, DC's Federal Communications Bar Association, like getting plugged into that. So if there's things that you know about that would be really great for young professionals to get plugged into, you should be doing that to those young folks in your companies. But yeah, Karina and Jack, do you have anything to add?
I can be short. I would just say there's a misconception that our generation doesn't like to work, and I can tell you that's wrong. There's more of us that do want to go wake up and go to the office every day and continuously progress in our careers and have purpose. So
I think what I've found is really sometimes I think you get so far away from that like beginning point in your career that you forget what it's like to literally not know the basics, right? Like whether it's, you know, an acronym or a definition or whatever. I mean, I remember in another life I was doing this like Spectrum 101 presentation, and we were starting here, and I was like, we need to go here because we have like law students, right? So really just remembering kind of how far down you need to go and like what it was like to be literally, I don't know what FCC stands for, let's say, like obviously, but just remembering what that's like and going back down to basics and then building that up from there.
Dan, I'll start with you.
I'd say go back to what, you know, be curious. Yeah, this is repetitive here, but be curious.
Yeah.
You know, take risks. And see every failure as a growth. Like once you've tried something and it doesn't work, okay, you can take it off the list of something to try again, which is more information than you had before the failure. And I'd say overall, just realize everybody started where you are. We always feel like we're feeling away, you know, nobody's ever felt like this before. No, we really all have. And that's, you know, I'd say always remember that. And for those of us who are kind of later in our career, you know, stay humble, realize we do need to build information from the bottom up. We can't start from here down. Love to teach, but yeah, stay curious, take risks. That this is the time of your career to do that. And again, the ultimate goal is find that passion. You might be 25 when you find it, you might be 45, it doesn't matter. That's the goal of your career. Find that passion and then build on that.
Yeah, and I guess I would add, I mean, I literally feel like I was just there. Like, I don't know where the years go by, but the years go by. And I think I would just repeat, too, what I had said earlier about, you know, being a student, being a good teammate, and being an asset to your organization, and always thinking about what else could you do differently and understanding the business. So that would be my answer. Short and sweet, Sean.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So before we finish up, we're going to have two more Sligo questions. Not right now. I'll give you the prompt when it's ready. But before that, as Taylor mentioned earlier at the start, right, this is the launch of a new program, NextGen Rising. As we develop future programming, we want to hear from you folks, and with two more questions before we close out the session. So now is your cue for Sligo. We have two questions coming up. First, what kind of professional development opportunities has been most valuable to you?
I mean, I'm going to comment, I'm going to tag onto something that Dan said earlier.
Please.
You know, finding your circle of people, and I would recommend different stages of career. You know, like, so you could have people who can give you candid feedback, because feedback is a gift, that you know, don't take it defensively, but welcome in what that is. And I think the mentorship here / sponsorship, I would say maybe, is probably something we can all do, and we all should do, regardless of stage of career, so that you always have somebody who can be your sanity check of like, was I off base there, or what should I do? Do I do more of this? And you know, I think that's really important, and I know you alluded to that earlier, about having a circle of people you trust, and regularly engaging, get feedback.
Yeah, you have to be on offense. You can't wait for it to come to you. You really have to go out there and seek it out. And I can't say that I've ever gone to anybody and asked for help in these things and people have said no, because we've all been there.
Right.
And usually there's surprise and admiration that early in your career you have the courage to go out and ask for help. That's how every time it happens to me. It's unusual. It's more unusual than it should be, but I can't imagine anybody ever rebuffing. I mean, they'll be impressed, and it sends a signal in and of itself.
Back to the one skill you could do is again another one, right? Yeah.
Right. It's human nature to help one another.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey guys, 76%, right, is two things, mentorship and networking. So here's an idea. Why don't you find a mentor at this networking event? Just throwing it out there. Right? All right, next Sligo question. What's the biggest challenge you face in our industry?
That's funny.
One's probably going to be networking, one's mentorship, right? So, okay.
That other could be a big bucket.
Yeah. Kind of curious what's in there, right?
Yeah, there's
Right?
a lot of things that could be there.
Who put other down?
Yeah, that's a lot of other.
Who put other down? I'm just curious. Okay, good. What are some of the other reasons? Oh, microphone's coming up right behind you.
So the biggest challenge you face in the industry is navigating the industry and how you go about that. So I don't think these other categories really capture that, in my opinion. It's why Bandwidth is a member of INCOMPAS, is joining together with others to try to successfully navigate the evolution of the industry, which is a huge challenge.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Greg. All right. Who else had other down?
I'm kind of in the telecommunications industry or text messaging. One of the things that we're struggling with is we have industry regulations, there are federal regulations, different country regulations, and now there are new state regulations. You know, because we have weak federal oversight, you have, you know, like T-Mobile wants to fine users $250, they don't use their network, right? And you have states are regulating text messages that go into their state and to say, oh, you have to do quarterly reports. So there's no, the sea's changing on a daily basis, and it's hard to keep up with the regulations and hard for businesses to stay current. So.
I have a solution for you. There's a industry association called INCOMPAS, and they do a fantastic job.
We haven't talked about
I
text
participate on weekly calls at INCOMPAS, and they keep me so up to date on what's going on, right, at the state and federal level. It's a great thing. So, something to consider. Thank you for sharing
text
that.
messaging? Okay.
Okay, we've heard a lot about the importance of soft skills, mentorships, networking. Maybe the most important thing is just persistence. I've heard that, right? Every one of you talked about, man, you just got to hang in there, right? And show up every day. And that's so important. So whether you're just getting started or already have large teams working for you, there's no single path up the ladder in telecom. But there's always room to grow in telecom. So for the young professionals here, I hope you leave today with ideas, but also some encouragement too. This industry is competitive, absolutely. And it can be complicated, absolutely. But there's people out there to help you. And it's full of opportunity for those who want to stay curious. Love that. Ralph Waldo Emerson, right? Yes. To stay connected, who are going to stay committed, and most importantly, show up every single day. So to the leaders in the room, I want to thank you for sharing your thoughts today, your experiences, and making space at the table, right, for the next gen coming up. If you see potential in someone new or someone younger, go up to them, start a conversation, mentor them, say something. I mean, right? You could actually change someone's career just by doing that one thing. Let's not let today's conversation end here. Before you leave the room, make one connection. Just one connection before you leave the room. Share one insight of what you learned today with someone back at the office who was not able to get here. And most of all, let's keep the momentum going, not for your own career, but for the future of telecom as a whole. I want to thank our amazing panel. Can we have a round of applause for these amazing people? All right. Watch for information from INCOMPAS on how to sign up for this program so we can include you in future discussions and programming. And last but not least, I want to give a special shout out to Arcadian and Verizon. Thank you, folks, who supported this event today. Enjoy the rest of the show. Get back safely to your families. And thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.